Bienvenidos al Arte de Pablo Picasso, the many faces of Pablo Picasso. We're going to begin with several self-portraits done by the artist. The first one was done in 1896 when Picasso was only 15 years old. So if you take a look at the portrait in the middle, you see a very classical style Pablo Picasso portrait. At 18, he does the sketch that you see to the left of that portrait. And at 24, you see an emerging style of Pablo Picasso while he is in Paris. The following year, the change is even more dramatic, where you see the emerging cubism of Pablo Picasso. Ending with the 1938 self-portrait, which is completely in the Cubist style. So I've started with these self-portraits so that we can begin to understand how Pablo Picasso's work will change over time. Pablo Picasso was born on October 25, 1881 in Malaga, Spain. He'll die on April 8, 1973. His early training came from his father, who was a painter and instructor. In 1891, Picasso moves with his family to the north to A Coruña, where his father takes a position as a professor of fine arts. After his sister dies of illness, the family will move to Barcelona, where the father again will continue to teach art and painting. At 16, his father sends Picasso to Madrid to study at the prestigious Real Academia de Bellas Artes. Turning our attention to Picasso's earliest works, we can see on the right the portrait of Picasso's mother, which he painted at 15. Already at a very young age, you see his classical training. You see his precision and how well he created realistic portraits. At 16, he will paint Science and Charity. Again, you can see how vivid the figures are. If you take just a close look at the bed sheets and you see how detailed that painting is, how realistic and lifelike it looks. And so you see a young man with an enormous amount of talent, already highly trained and educated in fine arts. Picasso's first trip to Paris is in the year 1900. In 1902, Picasso will begin to create a series of paintings in what will be called his blue period, because of their bluish hue and somber character. It all started in 1901, when Picasso was just 19. At the time, he was running with a group of radical artists, writers, and anarchists, who he'd met between his hometown of Barcelona and trips to Paris. His closest compatriot was the Spanish poet Charles Casamegas, but their friendship ended abruptly when Casamegas shoots himself in the middle of a dinner party in Paris that year. He does this because he had been recently spurned by a lover. Picasso will return to Paris in 1902, only to travel back after a few months to Paris. He'll begin work on a series of paintings. 3 of them are here. 2 of them from 1903, The Old Guitarist and La Vie, Life, and La Celestine in 1904. The Rose Period is a series of paintings between 1904 and 1906. They're characterized by a lighter tone and style, utilizing orange and pink colors, and featuring many circus peoples, acrobats and harlequins, known in France as saltimbanques. The harlequin a comedic character usually depicted in checkered patterned clothing, became a personal symbol for Picasso. Picasso meets Fernande Olivier, a bohemian artist who became his mistress in Paris in 1904. This will begin a change in his mood and color, moving from the blue period to the rose period, though a lot of the characters still remain very somber and serious. We have 3 paintings here for the rose period. We have a portrait of Gertrude Stein, the American novelist who was a friend of Picasso. When he painted Gertrude Stein, she sat about 9 times for this painting, and at the end she says, "But this doesn't look like me." And Picasso retorts, "But it will." In the middle, you have an acrobat and a young harlequin, 1905. You see the beautiful bright colors, you see the circus, life and people. And lastly, 1905, Maternita is a beautiful portrait of a woman nursing her child. From 1907 to 1917, Pablo Picasso pioneered the Cubism movement, a revolutionary style of modern art that Picasso formed in response to the rapidly changing modern world, in collaboration with his friend and fellow artist, Georges Braque. 3 styles of Cubism will emerge over time. The first one, if you take a look at the painting on the left, is a type of proto-cubism based on Picasso's study of primitive art. Picasso paints La Demoiselle d'Avignon, the Women of Avignon, in 1907. This was a scandalous painting of 5 women in the nude, wearing, and some of them are wearing, African masks. The second painting, in the middle, Girl with a Mandolin, 1910, is in the style of analytic cubism, or analytical cubism, which ran from 1908 to 1912. Its artwork looks more severe and are made up of an interweaving of planes and lines in muted tones, and blacks, grays, and ochres. In 3 Musicians, 1921, we see synthetic cubism, which is a later phase of Cubism generally considered to date from about 1912 to 1914, and characterized by simpler shapes and brighter colors. Synthetic Cubist works also often include collage to real elements, such as newspapers. The inclusions of real objects directly in art was the start of one of the most important ideas in modern art. Our final painting is titled Guernica, painted in 1937. It is an accurate depiction of a cruel, dramatic situation. Guernica was created to be part of the Spanish Pavilion at the International Exposition in Paris in 1937. Pablo Picasso's motivation for painting the scene in this great work was the news of the German aerial bombing of the Basque town, whose name the piece bears, which the artist had seen in the dramatic photographs published in various periodicals, including the French newspaper L'Humanité. Despite that neither the studies nor the finished picture contain a single allusion to a specific event, constituting instead a generic plea against the barbarity and terror of war. The huge picture is conceived as a giant poster, testimony to the horror that the Spanish Civil War was causing, and a forewarning of what was to come in the Second World War. The muted colors, the intensity of each and every one of the motifs, and the way they are articulated are all essential to the extreme tragedy of the scene. which would become the emblem for all the devastating tragedies of modern society. Picasso, after this period, will not be able to leave Paris. Spain will be under fascist rule under Francisco Franco. He lives in Paris during Hitler's occupation during World War II. I hope you enjoyed the artwork of Pablo Picasso. Definitely one of my favorites. There are a lot of sources on here that you can look for and learn more about Pablo Picasso. I encourage you to do your own research. Take a look at some more of his paintings on your own. Until the next time, have a great day.